Hi, it's Neil McGovern here, and this is the next part in how to play in tune on your saxophone. I'm actually going to talk about how to tune the saxophone today, which might seem like a basic thing, but there's a few points I'd like to make about how we actually tune. So often you'll be tuning to, say, a piano, and they'll give you a concert A. That'll be the A above middle C, A 440 very often, sometimes 442, depending if the piano is tuned a bit higher. Now, one of the things people often do, pianists, accompanists do this. Please stop if you're an accompanist, listen to this. Don't do this. They go A. They play a load of A's, one after another, in a very kind of complicated sound wave, and then they play a D minor chord. I haven't worked that one out exactly why we always play a D minor chord, but that's what they play. And it's just very difficult to actually pick out the pitch which you need, and that is just one simple A. What you need to do, if you're tuning yourself, play the A, small gap, then play. Okay, I was just a tiny, tiny bit sharp. Try again. I'm pretty much there now. And the thing is, you've really got to listen. You've got to listen to the difference between the two notes. Often people tune in ensembles badly because they're just all playing that tuning note at once, and there's usually at least one person in the group who doesn't really know exactly if they're in tune or not. You just do it one at a time with a little small gap of silence in between, and you really concentrate and you hear the difference between the sound. This is doubly important when you're playing with people on other instruments with maybe slightly unfamiliar timbres, or even just saxophone players with very different sounds. So this can cause a little bit of a problem. I think it's because the beginning of the sound wave is very complicated. So you want to try and have as steady a sound as you can, and then it's easier to listen to. Also, I should say that it's very important to always tune. So even when you're practicing alone, you will find that if you're not tuning yourself, you will get used to playing out of tune all the time. And often it's going to be sharp. You'll get used to playing your saxophone here, which is pretty sharp, and you might not notice that at first. But everything's a little bit just too high, and you're actually training your muscles to play out of tune. You're training yourself to get used to the feeling of playing everything out of tune, and you're pitching all your notes wrongly. And this gets really important later on when you get to more difficult high notes, and when you're trying to get really nuanced tuning right. If you haven't actually bothered to play in tune in your practice, then that's going to cause you a problem when you're playing with others. And maybe suddenly you're pulling your mouthpiece way further back than you ever have before. Oh, this is strange. Make sure you always play in tune. Even when you're just on your own, it's easy to do, and it's great practice. If you can't hear it, and it took me years to start to really hear this properly, just get the Magic Machine, get a tuner. You can get them as apps and things now very easily. Use your tuner, make sure it's set to the right frequency, A440 or maybe 442, depending what you're doing, but make sure you can just check for sure and then see it. You get that 0 position on the needle or the green light, and then you know, okay, I'm right. And we always tune on alto saxophone to the F sharp in the upper register. That's a very stable note and generally quite reliable. Remember, upper register tends to be sharp, lower register tends to be flat. Be careful what you're tuning to. Sometimes in bands and things you might land up tuning to concert B flat, which would be our G. That's not as good a note in either register really. It tends to be sharp at the top, flat at the bottom. So yeah, if you can, try and tune to your F sharp. That's a better note for us, which is thankfully the normal note, concert pitch tuning note. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully these videos are useful to you. If you find that they're useful, then keep watching them, watch some more, and if you want more information, then please look at my website. You can find out a lot. You can teach yourself a lot nowadays on video. It's an amazing thing, YouTube and various video platforms there are for learning things. But for music, for saxophone, there's nothing like having an actual teacher who can actually tell you what to do and tell you what your needs are and what the things you need to work on are. So if you're interested in lessons or you want further advice, do please get in touch.